In the heart of central South Africa stands a university focused on possibility, progress, and purpose. A place where knowledge evolves, ideas grow, and futures take shape. This is the University of the Free State. For 121 years, the UFS has advanced learning across 3 distinctive campuses, bringing together students from diverse backgrounds to form one connected, future-focused academic community. We are an innovative, research-led, student-centered, and regionally engaged university. Guided by our vision of responsible societal futures, we use our knowledge and partnerships to support progress and impact across our region, continent, and world. Across 7 faculties, our programs are shaped by expert academics committed to real-world relevance and meaningful impact. We train educators, health professionals, legal thinkers, creatives, scientists, business leaders, and theologians who drive change in their fields. Students learn from leading researchers and emerging scholars, working within networks that stretch across Africa and beyond. They step into a university that collaborates with global partners while remaining grounded in its responsibility to society. Our values shape how we teach, work, and engage. Excellence, care, accountability, impact, social justice, sustainability. These principles guide our commitment to student success, ensure a supportive and safe learning environment, and inspire a culture that embraces growth and forward-looking thinking. From advanced research facilities to community partnerships, from blended learning innovation to campus sustainability, the UFS continually evolves to meet the needs of a changing world. The UFS cultivates graduates and knowledge that create impact locally and globally. We are a forward-looking institution where fresh ideas grow, where diverse perspectives spark new insight, and where tomorrow's leaders are prepared today. Globally connected, regionally engaged, purpose-driven toward responsible societal futures. This is the University of the Free State.
one for the books, I promise. Now, before we go forward, just a few house rules. Number one, can you please have all phones on silent? Please put your phone on silent. Number two, when a speaker is on the podium, when a speaker has a mic, when a student has a mic, let's respect them. All of our voices deserve to be heard. Finish and glad. And then last but not least, if you are to go to the bathrooms, they are straight out the door towards your right. Okay, is that clear? Okay, I have one motto for the night, guys. Just one simple motto. Do not leave this room without your voice being heard. Ask your question. Ask it. It's important. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Harmony Hive to the stage, our very own beautiful choir, for such a quick, short performance. Please, guys, give them just a round of applause. Sorry, guys, just a quick one. Is there any deaf individual in the house? Please just indicate. If there is a deaf individual, then the lovely lady will stay right in front. Okay, thank you, guys.
Some water. To face some water. To face some water. Yelele mama we. some water. Yelele mama we. To face some water.
Ngelanga lokuzala kwakho bengazi ukuthi ngizokwenzani, nemali beyingekho wenda mina nomama kho besiphelele ngamaplani. Awodwa yaringa ifoni enzulwini zobusuku, yaringa ifoni ngilele, akodwa wafona umama wakho wathi besiphuthume esibhedlele ngokukhulu ukuthuka, ngashaya umthandazo omncane asengaphuthuma ngapha indlele yakuwena ngokukhulu ukuthuka, ngashaya umthandazo omncane asengaphuthuma ngapha indlele yakuwena. Wena Dolly wami, unodoli yo wena uyingelosi enga, wena Dolly wami, unodoli yo wena uyingelosi enga. Tila tila, oh lo lo lo, tila tila, oh lo lo lo, wena uyingelosi enga. Tila tila, oh lo lo lo, tila tila, oh lo lo lo, wena uyingelosi enga. Unodoli wami, unodoli yo wena uyingelosi enga. Unodoli wami, unodoli yo wena uyingelosi enga. Unodoli wami, unodoli yo wena uyingelosi enga.
Thank you very much for that. Can you please just give Harmony Hive a round of applause? And now it brings me the great honor to introduce our ED. Do you guys know who ED is? Oh, okay. No, he'll tell you. He'll tell you. Just listen. But I'd like to welcome on stage our Executive Director of Student Affairs, Dr. Themba Hlasho.
Good afternoon. I can't hear you. Yo, I'm highly emotional. Yo, harmony vibes are in, man. Yo, niya kalisa. Yo, can't you open his hands, please? Thank you very much. I'm going to be very short in it because what is important is what we are here for. For me, the job is just to welcome you, and I'm going to just do that. And I'm going to be very, very brief. I think let me first, acknowledge and recognize that we are led by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Hester Klopper, who happened to be in Singapore, and she could not be with us here. Let me also recognize the campus principal, Professor Ngobeni, and also the vice principals in absentia, the Director of Student Affairs, Mayor Dotwana, the DD, Mr. Paula Balani, and distinguished guests. In our midst, colleagues, you are the most fortunate group of students that would be listening to two very, very competent academics in the names of Professor Masocha, who is the Dean of Humanities. I want you to see Professor Masocha. I know he's not going to agree with me. I'm going to request him to stand. Prof, may you stand, please? That's Professor Masocha. We also have in our midst a very brand new academic who is called Dr. Gcina Mtengwana, who is a lecturer in the Center for the Gender Studies. Doctor? I'm going to ask only two people to stand, and others I'm not going to ask. I'm going to ask the professor who is the campus principal to stand, Prof. Mobeni. That is your father, ne? That is your father. I'm going to ask your mother now to stand. Mezoleka Dodwana. Mother, stand up. Lastly but not least, I'm going to ask Didi, Mr. Malane, to stand up. The last person I'm going to ask, please, I do not want you to scream more than you have screamed. It is the campus president of SRC, Mr. Where is it, Mkebo? Where is Mkebo? And I must also recognize Mr. and Mrs. Mbali Tebelo Siyoke, who are from Sibahle Wellness Initiatives. I think our entertainers also is going to be Tabo Pizzo, and the other name is Letuku Tulazu. If I called your name wrongly, please, my apologies. Colleagues, the genesis and the purpose of this conversation today is very important. We gather not for another meeting, but for a moment of collective reimagination. The genesis of this critical dialogue series is simple. The world our students are entering is not the world we entered. The world we entered is totally different from the world that you are entering. Do you agree? Yes. Climate anxiety, digital overload, financial pressure, identity, belonging, and the aftershocks of a pandemic have rewritten the definition of wellness. If we continue to treat student wellness as a clinic in the corner of a campus, we will fail the very people we are trying to assist. It is throughput, it is graduate attribute, it is the resilience to build societal futures. That is wellness. Wellness is not only about us taking care of you in a health clinic. It is about making sure that the students, we are given a responsibility to nurture and develop, progress. The university realizes a throughput rate, and we realize citizens that change the world we are trying to build. That is why we are here, to interrogate, to challenge, to co-create a new architecture of care. One that is compassionate, inclusive, evidence-based, and owned by the whole university community. The benefit to our student is clear. When we get well right, we unlock learning, leadership, and the life. Tonight's conversation is intentionally disruptive. We have asked Prof. Masocha to help us understand wellness through the lens of humanities. The stories, cultures, and meaning-making that heal. We have asked Dr. Mtengwana to bring a critical gender lens because wellness is not neutral. It is lived differently across bodies and identities. And Prof. Klopa will remind us from a global perspective that universities that thrive are those that put people at the center of their strategy. This dialogue is not an event. It is a building block. It forms part of our intellectual and ethical road towards the Student Wellness Global Summit. All of us understand that the University of the Free State, through Student Affairs, Sports, Arts and Culture, host a global Student Wellness Summit. We hosted it in South Campus last year. We are hosting it again today at the South Campus in July. So this is actually a building block towards that summit. It is the brainchild of, amongst others, Professor Masocha, because when Student Affairs engaged deans, actually we benefited from their contribution in terms of how best we can reimagine the Global Summit into something meaningful, something impactful. Thank you, Prof. Masocha, for that. I think those interactions helped a lot for us to reimagine how we do these things. Colleagues, the very important thing is you as students, for you to be able to succeed, you need to be well. And wellness is not only a responsibility of student affairs outside the classroom. It is a collective responsibility of student affairs through core curricular programs, as well as faculties, through them interfacing with you and empowering you around wellness. So I charge this room with 3 commitments. One commitment is be bold. Reimagine, don't just reform. If a policy, a resident culture, or a curriculum point harms wellness, name it, change it. Policy is supposed to be enabling. If a policy is not enabling, you must be at the forefront of wanting to change that policy. Be evident, be evidence-led. Let us bring data, live experience to the same table. What we measure, we can improve. The last point, be collective. Wellness is not a job of health wellness alone. It is the job of every lecturer who notices absence, every house committee member who mediates conflict, every executive who signs a budget. To our students, your voice is not just welcome here, it is required. This is your university. This is your future. To our panel, once more, we are ready to be challenged. Let us begin a conversation worthy of the summit we are building toward and worthy of the students we serve. May the dialogue be critical, compassionate, and catalytic. I thank you, Siyabonga, Kialebucha, Nkosi, Bayadonko.
Thank you, ED, for that inspiring, not only inspiring, but I feel like you touched on a very few important points. Sorry, guys, but I'm too short. If you had noted, ED had touched on a few very important points, and I hope you guys got that. If you did not, we're about to continue on with the conversation. I would like to invite our panelists up to the stage to come through. During this panel discussion, there will be sections for students to ask their questions and answer our questions too. So if you do have any questions along that, please do note them down. I am not alone as a facilitator. I do come with a chomi. You know, a cute chum. You never walk alone, guys. You never walk alone. Please welcome my co-facilitator, Mr. Mbalane, Deputy Director.
Thank you, Chomi. Like she has already indicated, we will be facilitating this conversation together. Prof and Doc, may you kindly join us on stage. DJ, I love it when you do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we are moving to the conversation part of our program. Welcome our guest speakers. Let's just give them another round of applause. And in case you were wondering who we have on stage, I have the honor of introducing Prof. Masocha. He holds a PhD and has been involved in higher education and research in South Africa for over 20 years. And 10 years of the 20, he was in senior management roles. He is the Dean of the Faculty of the Humanities at our very own institution. Do we have students from the Faculty of the Humanities here? Yes. He is an acclaimed researcher with an NRF rating and has maintained a coherent research trajectory in indigenous knowledge systems and decolonial studies. He has an excellent research publication record. He serves on several key boards and committees. I will just mention a few of those. He's the chairperson of the steering committee of the South African Center for Digital Language Resources. At the Council for Higher Education, he serves as the member of the Quality Assurance Framework Community of Practice for Development of Higher Education Practices Standards, Curriculum Transformation. He, again, at the Council for Higher Education, he serves as the reference group and research team, development of a framework for transformation of and in higher education in South Africa, inclusive of a monitoring and evaluation framework. He's also the chairperson, the board of the NIHSS. He's the chairperson of the South African BRICS think tank. He's also a panel member in the reference group for the policy framework for internationalization of higher education in South Africa. Maybe we can clap so that I can breathe. Hey. Hey. He has also served as the president of the South African Deans Association until recently. He's the book editor of the series publication titled Knowledge Pathing, Multi, Inter, and Transdisciplining in Social Sciences, which has been published by IOSIS. Furthermore, he has an extensive and impressive national and international experience and standing. Also, he has substantive management experience, such as working at the National Research Foundation, NRF, Commission for Culture, Religion, and Language, as well as the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Prof, welcome. Hope, who do you have?
Well, I have another scholar. I must say, with the panelists that we have today, you can tell that they love learning. Guys, they love learning. So I am honored to introduce Dr. Yes, Dr. Gcina Matsengwane is a dedicated community development lecturer at the Center for Gender and Africa Studies. He holds a PhD in sociology, focusing his research on the complex lived realities of the youth, us guys, as they navigate the critical transition into adulthood and the various experiences that shape their life opportunities. Now, he holds a Master of Arts in Social Development and Social Policy from the University of Witwatersrand, and a Master of Social Science in Development from the University of Fort Hare. Beyond the classroom, he is a socio-political commentator, frequently sharing his insights across various media platforms to engage with national issues. Amongst that, he is an emerging policy analyst, working to translate sociological research into actionable strategies for social improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr.
And Doc, we must also congratulate you, hey, for your PhD. He recently obtained his PhD. Let's just give him a round of applause. And indeed, we have incredible scholars, but also we have incredible active citizens in our midst.
Definitely.
These scholars not only focus on the academic part of life, but they are actively involved in communities, in different committees which are geared towards the development of the society. Prof, you are taking a different detour, passion on student well-being. I just want to get your insights into our topic for the day, which is on reimagining student well-being in the current South African higher education landscape, Quo Vadis. And also, how do you locate yourself in this topic?
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. Good evening. Yes, it's actually quite a wonderful moment for one to sit here, not in an office, but to engage with students. And I wanted to thank the opportunity to be with you this evening. And also want to thank the Student Affairs Division for this wonderful opportunity to have students to dialogue and engage with each other in terms of their welfare. And I know now I'm bringing a new term, welfare, and I think probably we'll talk about that. Earlier on, the ED was talking about wellness, but I think the overarching will be about the welfare of students. So that actually then brings in health, it brings all aspects of what we call student welfare going forward. So just like any other academic, when you are given a topic, you start writing. So I actually had to throw this away. So I said, no, I will probably come back to it. I was talking to Professor Ngobeni that we'll probably have to revisit this thing after this and maybe look at the possibility of publishing it. But this evening, and how I like it, it's about a conversation. But I wanted to make few thoughts, and let me start by acknowledging the fact that as a young lecturer, so I started budding when I was still a lecturer at this university, a campus, Kwakwa campus. So I still remember my office there in the humanities building. So I was still very, very tiny and in my 20s. So when I started my PhD, to study for my PhD, I registered while I was at the Kwakwa campus. But it was still part of the University of the North. So we used to report to TEFLUOP. But I hold this campus in my heart because this is where I started to see things differently. So you are really privileged to be at the Kwakwa campus. I wanted to tell you that. And I've seen actually this campus now growing, and I think it's quite impressive to see a lot of changes that are happening on this campus. During our time, all those other buildings were not there. There were very few buildings. I remember when the wall was built, it was built right in front of my eyes. And even when it was officially opened by the then Deputy President Mbeki, so I was here on campus. So I was still very young at that time. So when I attained my PhD, I had not even reached 30 years. I was still in my 20s. So at the Bloemfontein campus, it was still with the then Orange University, University of the Orange Free State. So therefore, Kwakwa campus it's an important place in my heart. And I think I'm mentioning it because I think it allowed me to reimagine myself. So it gave me space to discover and find myself. Therefore, I think this is the first point. The second point is that when you come in as a student, you are not just a tabula rasa. You come in with experiences. And I think I liked your PhD title. It has got lived experiences. So you come with your lived experiences. You come from a particular background with culture, with spirituality. You come with all kinds of experiences. Therefore, you are not just a bag of potatoes just to be dropped at the gate, and then the university will do something about it. And out of that, we have got fish and chips and so on. You are a human being with experience. So I think this consciousness becomes very critical. And I liked what the ED was saying, is that you need to always affirm who you are, regardless of the fact that you are exposed to biochemistry, to sociology, to law, all other things, is that you are a human being. And I think when we talk about wellness, we are basically affirming who you are, your identity, your presence as a student. So it must be felt that you are here. That is number 2. But number 3, and it's something that I'm battling with, and I've been battling with it, is that as much as we're talking about wellness, we cannot run away from the fact that we are coming from a world which is carrying scars. We are scarred people. And I always say it even to the lecturers that you must admit that equally so, you are carrying scars. So we cannot run away from the history of our country, the history of apartheid, the history, and as much as you can call yourself Ma 2000, but you still become Ma 2000 with scars, because your forefathers and mothers will always relate to you about how they suffered. Unfortunately, the repercussions of that are still felt even today, because we're talking about unemployment, we're talking about poverty, we're talking about issues of settlement, homelessness, all kinds of the social issues that are there. But now, when we talk about students in the South African higher education space, you cannot run away from that scar situation. So we carry scars. You carry scars. But not only students, but equally so, the staff. As a lecturer, when I was still a young lecturer, as I teach also remembering the pain that we all carry. So therefore, having said that, I don't want that to diminish your potential, which is bringing me to the fourth issue to say, as much as you carry this scar, but you can transcend that. So the scar part becomes a reference point to make you become a person who will overcome that. So therefore, when you are in a class situation, you need to overcome that. Now, the fifth point, and I think you might not agree with me, it is something that worries me. I wonder what makes you to pick up a rock and throw it when you carry a scar. Because I still want to understand what this anger is all about, which makes you to break things. And I know you might be saying now, he is not saying things. I remember during our time, we were not breaking things. I remember we would come into the office of the Vice Chancellor and dance on the table. That was as far as we will go. But I think we still have to talk about this in the context of wellness, whether this is appropriate or not appropriate in this case. And I'm raising it because we need to have a conversation about what makes us to be so angry. So the last one, I know you gave me some few minutes. So I reimagining basically gives us an opportunity to problematize, to critique, and ultimately we come to the Latin term quo vadis, meaning where to. But for us, as students at the University of the Free State, would like you as you enter into the system of higher education, when you leave, you have to make a contribution, but do not forget who you are, that you still carry the scars with you. I'll stop there for now.
Prof, you start off by taking us through basically your homecoming, because to you this is a homecoming.
Yes.
You are coming back where it all started. But you then begin to paint a picture, and we are going to get to this towards the end of the conversation. You are painting a picture that student wellness, student well-being cannot be approached from isolated angles, but it has to be approached from an integrated perspective, what others call a holistic approach. And thank you for painting that picture for us so beautifully. Hope, do you want to bring in your newly found doc?
Definitely, definitely. I think coming from what Doc has already said, touching on the scars and the anger that young people, and not only young people, but even staff members are carrying, I would just like to bring in our lovely doctor to just please give us an idea of what are the contextual realities that influence student well-being, especially that ties into your research of the lived experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Molweni, dumelang. Absheni, sanbonani, nda. I don't know the Afrikaans one. Somebody will teach me. But
Goeienaand.
all right. Thank you very much to the Student Affairs unit for this opportunity. I usually identify myself as one of the friends or the campus friends of Student Affairs, so I'm very happy to be here to share my insights. So the question that I am asked to tackle is that of the contextual factors that affect student well-being. There is a very popular saying that says universities are a microcosm of society. In other words, universities are smaller versions of where we come from. I like what Prof said when he said, you do not come to the university as an empty vessel. You come to the university carrying experiences, some positive and some negative. Hence, perhaps he spoke of the scars that we carry. But in answering the question, I want us to look at South Africa and its socio-economic, cultural, and political context, right? We come from a context where particularly young people are grappling with high unemployment rates. And these high unemployment rates are also prevalent for graduates, the people that come from this very university. We come from a context of inequality in terms of access to opportunities, inequality in terms of the economic dimension, and also inequality in terms of access to the information that you guys are receiving at the university, right? We also come from a context of various exclusions, youth being excluded from the market, youth voices being excluded in policy development, youth voices being excluded and youth being treated as other than the normal citizens of this country. So what does this have to do with universities? It has to do with universities because the people or the young people that are in universities come from those contexts. Their perception of self, their efficacy in themselves is influenced by those various factors that happen outside of the university. Now, what does this mean? It means that the university, in promoting well-being, has got to create opportunities. When I speak of the university, it's not just the UFS, but universities across the country. They have a responsibility to create an environment that is home. They've got to be able to create opportunities for homemaking for students, where students can feel a sense of belonging, where they can feel that the opportunities are there for them to overcome the very challenges that they come from. In other words, students, in the context of the social realities out there, ought to be empowered to see themselves as people who are in a position where they are transitioning from a point where they did not have the knowledge that they have, that they are getting at the university, to people who have the capacity to then respond to those challenges that are out there. What does your well-being have to do with that? A sick doctor cannot heal a sick nation. Am I missing it? A sick accountant cannot be financially responsible and account for all the things that are going wrong in the country if they are not well. A pastor cannot go and preach at the church if they themselves are not spiritually fulfilled. So by that, I just wanted to give you an indication of some of the factors or contextual factors that are prevalent in society that a first-year student comes in with, and the importance then of the role of the university in creating a fertile ground, number one, as home for the students, where they can feel a sense of belonging during the time that they are here, and then empowering them to a point where they can respond to these various contextual challenges that South Africa faces, that KwaZulu-Natal faces, and that the Free State faces, and the country as a whole. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for that, Dr. Glina. And now I would just like to shift the conversation to the students. I feel like what Prof has done is to lay the foundation of the conversation. And now moving into what does student well-being look like practically. I think the question then that I would pose to the students is, we've heard the theoretical part of the contextual realities that influence student well-being. What are the challenges that you would say as students you are experiencing that you feel that even the university could do better at supporting? So there will be a revolving mic for those that have answers, but we would very much appreciate your effort. So if you have an answer, just lift up your hand. Or if you have any questions for Prof and Doctor.
And maybe while our audience is still thinking through, what Doc is saying makes me wonder, could it be that we are expecting young people and students to be well in an unwell country?
Definitely.
Maybe let's shift to the question or a comment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abenati Parati or Aisha. Okay, cool. Greetings to the panelists. Sorry, you stated that basically in order to succeed, we need to be well and all of that, ne? And you touched on the whole graduates and them not being unemployed, which typically piqued my interest. I wanted to ask, there were a few graduate protests. There was a graduate protest a few weeks back saying that they have completed their studies, they are unemployed, they carry degrees, even PhDs, but their qualifications aren't acknowledged. Now, you say in order to succeed, you need to be well, but how can one be well when their future success looks bleak and poor, even considering all the work that you've put through? And then education is also the key to success. How can my fellow colleagues and I be well when said success is basically denied by the very government that coerces us, in lack of a better word, to succeed when they snuff out that light in you the moment you think that you've succeeded? What then can I use as motivation to continue on with my studies instead of just going out and working in another place? Why should I continue with studies? What's the point of me studying and searching for that degree, trying to claim that degree if it's not going to be acknowledged, if basically half of my fellow graduates, my seniors, are basically out in the streets? It's basically just for decoration. Why should I then continue?
Thank you. We're noting down that question. Is there any other question or an answer?
Thank you very much, Swongile Dlamini here. A question to both of the panelists. Student Affairs is already doing a great job in trying to develop holistic students with the programs that they offer within the institution. My question is, what practical endeavors can the institution take in trying to involve communities out there into the university spaces, considering the scars that Prof alluded to that we carry, both students and staff members? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And is there any last question or comment? Okay, I do believe then we'll just move on to the panelists and hear their answers.
He said I should be the one starting. Yes, thank you very much for these two important questions, which are very important. And earlier on, our Executive Director, Dr. Shasho, referred to graduate attributes. I think if you know our graduate attributes, one of them is about employability. And I want to respond on two parts. One is that the microcosm and the macrocosm. So if you talk about poverty and unemployment, which is out there, definitely it will affect us when you go out into the community. And believe me, and this you can quote me wherever you go. Every time when there is a graduation, I'm not the happiest dean ever, especially coming from the humanities. Because the question is, as you cross the stage, I am pained by the fact that majority of those who cross the stage will become unemployed. And believe me, this is what I told the minister, the Honorable Minister Butimana Mela. We met with him, I think it was in January, when we were discussing it, to say, I don't like graduations. And if graduations were actually giving us a sense that as you cross over, and you are wounded, and then you are sure of a job, then I would actually sleep well. But of course, I look at the numbers, and the numbers are up there, and then it's like, no, you have achieved. But let me tell you, I'm not the happiest person. So that is number one. So number two, in terms of what we are doing now in the faculty, is to already starting to embark on employability as an important focus of the faculty. So we will be having, and of course working with the student affairs to have what we call employability fair. I'm not talking about career. So career is something else. So let's move away from career services and talk about employability service so that we grapple with that. And what it means is that we have got to become very aggressive in ensuring that companies will come very closer to us and tell us what they would actually require from our graduates. We have already started it. I'm not talking about something which is far away. Social work, for instance, psychology, criminology. I now have about 5 departments that are now grappling with that. And we're also talking about branding, for instance, as one of the aspects to say, as far as you study criminology, but then let's look at how you brand yourself so that when you leave the university, we can actualize employability and not just talk about it as a word in terms of a graduate attribute. Believe me or not, I am working on that personally. It worries me where you will end up when you leave the university. It worries me. Because I look at that and I say, how do I match what's happening out there and with what is going to happen to our graduates? We do not want to graduate you into poverty. So we must actually stand up and actually grapple with this thing. It actually requires all of us to grapple with it. But also, I wanted to come, maybe I might differ a little bit with you. I am a wounded healer. I believe you can still heal even when you're wounded. So I wanted to say, otherwise, if I had actually believed that I'm carrying a scar and I sit with my scar, I would not have actually continued in life. All what I'm saying is that even if your generations, the fourth or the first generation, passed on that day, the trauma on you, but you must still carry on. It is required of you. You cannot fail. You cannot fail your generation, your previous generations. You cannot only sit and say, I'm carrying a scar. It is your duty bound to go beyond your scar. The scar is just a reference of your history of pain. But stand up and do something about that. That's my first response to that one. Now, the second question is a very important one. I think it basically challenges us, and I'm very happy that Professor Ngobeni is here and the ED is here. It's about how do we allow students to have a say in the program of Engaged Scholarship. I think what we are currently doing, we have got it articulated at this higher level. But I think we need to have students now saying, this is what it means, because I'm very happy that our university has a portfolio called Engaged Scholarship. It basically means bringing the community closer to the university and the university closer to the community. It's different from when you do outreach. It's not outreach. It's basically bringing what you call about impact. How do we impact? You should already start making impact even when you are still a student. We should see it. So I'm saying tonight, one of the resolutions is to say, how do we have a student voice in terms of the program of Engaged Scholarship? It needs to be sharpened. It must talk to what is currently happening. It cannot be one side. It cannot be one side. We must have all voices coming in and defining what does it mean when we talk about engaged scholarship. I think you are better placed to tell us how this engaged scholarship should look like. I will leave it there.
Thank you very much. Prof has covered quite a bit of the most important elements in relation to the questions, but I'll try and infuse the two questions for the purposes of brevity. All right. One of the students asked a very important question regarding the concerns around graduate unemployment, which is expressed in various spaces. We speak of a stagnant or non-growing economy. We speak of declining opportunities and all of those things. But Prof and the House at large, what that demonstrates to me is the influence of the macro on the micro. What do I mean by that? It is the influence of structural issues or factors that we do not necessarily have power to control. And it's those factors that come in then to have an influence on our personal or lived experiences as students and young people. What implication does this have? It means that as students, as young people, even if you are old, ED, it is your responsibility to be aware of your surrounding. It is your responsibility to be an active citizen who is able to resist certain things that happen that create lack of opportunities, lack of growth, and lack of pathways to better livelihoods. So what does this mean? It touches on the point on being engaged students, us being engaged scholars, and the university in the bigger picture being an engaged university that concerns itself with being relevant to its immediate context, Qwaqwa in our situation, the Bloemfontein campus as well, the Free State province, and the country at large. That way, we will be able to say we are taking action against the structural so that it has a lower impact on the personal, that is the micro level, right? So we ought to become more engaged and concerned with our immediate as well as our distant surroundings. What is it that universities can do in particular? Universities, to the best of their ability, ought to have a responsive and responsible curriculum. What do I mean? I mean a curriculum that responds to the needs and realities of the context that the universities find themselves in. So if we have a problem of poor educational outcomes at primary level, universities in their education faculties ought to make that a priority. We have an issue of gender-based violence. We have an issue of gender discrimination. We, as the Center for Gender and Africa Studies, have a responsibility to contribute solutions to that. So we ought to take our scholarship, as Prof indicated, to levels below that of our peers and to levels where it matters the most. That is the communities that we find ourselves in. The last one, I'll try to be brief, my facilitators. Practical endeavors to involve communities in order to create better opportunities. I'm just paraphrasing the question. One of them is the one that I've mentioned, right? That is of us becoming engaged citizens inside the university as well as outside the universities. And more importantly, organizing ourselves. When people speak of organizing, people think of political parties. That is not the only path. You don't have to organize yourself in, these normally perceived ways. Organizing ourselves is saying, we are feeling this, it is burning our feet, and therefore we're tired of the burn on our feet, and we're going to do something about it. So we ought to confront the structural so that we minimize its impact on what? On the personal. That is my take on this. Thank you very much.
Sure. And that is so powerful, especially if you understand the role of universities, because you are speaking about relevance, you are also speaking about responsiveness of the curriculum, because a curriculum has a role to play in transforming societies. And I think it is my view then that if we follow that path that Doc is talking about, we will be able to transform universities to become what we call the epitome of society. Instead of being the microcosm, we become a true example of what societies ought to look like, so that we begin to influence not just the university environment, but the community and the country at large. And then we can become more global in our approach. Let's just give our panelists a round of applause. Hope, I do want to take a quick turn in this conversation, because I want to abuse our panelists because they come from the humanities. And when we talk wellness, when we talk well-being, there are frameworks that we are using. There are lenses that we are using. And I want to invite you to just give us your comment in terms of what epistemologies inform our definition of student well-being. And in those frameworks, what is it that we are intentionally including and unintentionally excluding? If I could just get your view on the frameworks, thank you.
Yeah, it looks like I'll always be the first to start. And no, it's okay.
I think, Prof.
No, it's fine.
The mistake you made is to be a professor. We start with a professor, we come to a doctor.
No, it
yes.
shouldn't be like that. No, it's a very important question. And maybe if you allow me, facilitator, to respond by just giving a practical example. When I started at the University of Free State, I got very worried when I met a number of students who were Matuela, some Basebeletsi, because in my training as someone who observes, because you see them going around, and then I'll actually stop them and say, how do you find time to do what you're doing? Is the university practice allowing you, for instance, to have time to practice what you have been taught to do? Then I met quite a number of them who were saying they did not find the university to be friendly towards their gift. And I was really worried. And it actually comes down to the point that you are raising to say, are our universities, and I'm not talking about University of the Free State, are our universities in Africa or African universities? So most of our universities are universities in Africa. So, and I was also trained in a university which is in Africa, but not an African university. We still have to grapple with this notion of what is an African university, because it basically challenges the theory, the approaches, and everything. The thinking of that university must definitely change. And I think what Doc said, very critical, and I wanted to thank you for that, because it actually even says what you teach, how you teach it, has to be informed by a particular lens. Because when you enter into a class, the choice of literature the list of literature that you propose for students to read is also informed by the lens that you have. But if the lens that you have is a university in Africa, you'll definitely be telling us about seminal work. Because people hide behind seminal work. In sociology, they'll say there'll be seminal. If you have not read these 4 old men, therefore you are not into sociology, or these 4 men, you are not into philosophy. These 4 men, then you don't know what history is. It hides behind seminar. They call it seminal. It's basically basic literature, Without this, you are not in the field. But it is also informed by how we've been trained. But remember, I cannot run away from the fact that I was trained in a Western way. But I had to battle in the process so that I fight my way out. Because I was thrown into the ocean to say, figure out how you come out of it. So the point that you're making is very important, and that's why we are battling with this thing about decoloniality. I mean, you can go around campus and ask how many people really embrace decolonial thinking. Very few. And then what we do, I think we hide behind the disciplines. Disciplines. And I'm very happy now that our university has embraced transdisciplinarity. Because when you talk about transdisciplinarity, then it breaks the wall. It basically says let's engage differently. So the rules of engagement must change completely in this case. So that's where I am. I'm a decolonial scholar, and I'm very confident about that, and no one can shift me from it. But it has not come easy. But I had to struggle with that. But remember this, it's also very costly, because it also means where you publish, not everywhere your article will be accepted. Because you also have got gatekeeping in terms of where you publish. When you talk about Q1 and Q2, they'll tell you about that thinking is not this. Every journal has its own lancing anyway. So those are the challenges that are there. But I think the message we are transmitting this evening is that one is that you matter. That's one. I think this was important as a student. But number two is that you are gifted. Number three is that you have an opportunity to explore for yourself and be a better person. And you have the ability to do it. So use the opportunity now, even if it's hard, but to make a way and define your way. It doesn't matter whether you're a first year or a second year. Let me tell you, my first publication was when I was doing second year BA. So you cannot wait until you have an honors. You can still publish now.
No, before I bring you in, Doc, I cannot let this slide. Are we African universities, or are we universities in Africa? And I do want to allow our audience to respond to this. I mean, as a student, what is your feeling? Do you feel like you are in an African university, or do you feel like you are in a university in Africa, and why? Just one or two comments, and then I will bring Doc in. One or two comments. There is a hand. The way I need a comment on this, I'm willing to move myself because...
Testing. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nosipho Nkomo. Although I just arrived, I'm a first year actually. However, I would like to say I feel like I am in a university in Africa, not in an African university. I feel like so far, I don't know if it's the module I'm doing or the faculty I'm in. University, I feel like a university is not preparing me for the career path. Sir spoke about implementing employability. However, I feel like we're not looking enough into entrepreneurship mindset, critical thinking. The problems that, what I'm trying to say is, we're not looking into the future. The problems that are currently happening now are not going to be the same when I graduate. That's not what I'm seeing here. Right now, as much as we're addressing the problems that are happening now, I feel like when I graduate, the problems won't be the same. And I feel like university is not preparing me for that. I have to do my own extra research, go outside for that, of which I feel like it's not my money, but like NSFAS is paying a lot for me to do my own research when there are resources at school to provide me with that information. I also feel like I just arrived, guys. I literally just arrived. But with everything that I've seen, I feel like it's not doing a great job in closing the gap in inequality. We're all coming from different backgrounds. The knowledge I have, maybe somebody else doesn't have that same knowledge. The level of mental health well-being, being aware of who you are and your vision in the future. I feel like university, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm still new, maybe it's because I'm still new, but I feel like it's not doing a great job at closing that gap. If I fail right now, I'm equipped with the knowledge to know, okay, I'll be fine, I'll try again. But somebody else who's coming from a rural area where maybe she is one of the 10 people who passed matric, if they fail, for them it's like they have to commit suicide. How can they face the shame of their whole family, their whole community looking at them? I feel like that the university, guys, it's really not doing enough with mental health, wellness, and just preparing us for the future. It feels like I am in a university in Africa, not an African university. Thank you.
And that is a powerful comment. And I think the point she's driving home is the lack of contextualized foresight. That we are in a South African context, in Africa, and there are challenges that you might face out there that the curriculum might not have prepared you for. Thank you for making that point. Let's give you another round of applause. That is the last comment on are we an African university or a university in Africa from a student perspective.
Good afternoon. My name is Penuel Zelinda. I currently serve as the Deputy Speaker of the established Student Parliament for Qoqo campus. So my view, we are universities in Africa. We are not African universities. Because if we were African universities, our financial needs should have been taken into consideration by these universities. The reason why I am saying that, we know very well that in most of the universities that we have in South Africa specifically, they have been flooded by students which depend on NSFAS, specifically which depends on grant. So, and again, this is in relation to what Prof said in terms of himself asking questions to say, what scars are these students carrying? To my response, based on that, Prof, I believe we do not have consciousness anymore. Our consciousness has left us. We don't have anything to do now. Like, we do not care in what we do. So the reason why I am saying that, one of the biggest contributor for us to lose our consciousness is finances. Financial insecurities have become a health issue now. And that issue also contributes into our health wellness. So it's very much important, Doc, to say these universities, they should ensure that whenever they are making decisions based on this student, knowing very well that we depend on grant, to explain further more on that for your understanding. You will find a student, for example, who comes from a rural area, and we know very well in terms of our socio-economic background, we are very much disadvantaged. We will find a student from a poor family, a severe poor family. We will find that they will be happy to say, my children or my child has been accepted at UFS. And they will even celebrate and slaughter that chicken which was saved to be slaughtered at Christmas Day. So those are the things which we are dealing with. And for him to come to the university is still a struggle, because remember, he's depending on grant, and as far as isn't paid. So he means to say he's going to take a loan. Whenever he arrives here, it still becomes an issue now. Now we are supposed to wait for our allowance to be dispersed to us. And again, you'll find that with the NSFAS and university, they are not in alignment in terms of readiness. We'll find out the university is ready more than NSFAS. So we should align those things in terms of measurements, in terms of alternatives, to ensure that we integrate the students so that we improve their lives. So again, to add on that same student is here. After that year, now is facing financial insecurities. He knows very well that I cannot call someone at home. They do not have money. So you'll find these people, you'll find this male student, they'll go in the townships now. Now they will have to take unholy decisions to ensure that they generate some money to register, even here to pay for registration fee. And even when it comes to male students, we are the ones who are going to ensure that we contribute to the criminal rate of this town. So those are the things that we are supposed to take into consideration. We are not African universities, we are university in African. Thank you, sir.
No, that was the final
You'll
comment.
forgive me. I was raising, and then I'm sure you didn't see my hand.
If you just, I'm going to give you 1 minute, President. You just summarize your point so that we can continue with the conversation. Thank you.
I'll try. I will start where Prof said in terms of seminal work. I think it was something very important. I would make an example. In education, usually, if you are speaking about methodology, they will tell you that you can't quote methodology and not include the likes of Creswell, the likes of Port. So in that, I'm in agreement with what Morena has just said. We are just universities in Africa. We are not African universities, because what is being taught, or rather whatever we are being shaped of, it's what I would call Eurocentric teachings. It's things that belong, or rather are mostly taught in Europe. I'll go back to Vision 180. In Vision 180, there is what we call internalization, meaning we want to internalize our university, our UFS university, but there is not what we call, I don't know if the word exists, Africanization, meaning we go in Africa, investigate universities in Africa, and find similarities in that. But whatever that we are being taught here in our universities, it's not something that, Prof also said something that we should be taught things that will then are more or less based on our lived experiences. But when was that? When was the last time we went and searched the real lived experiences in South Africa, and then we said we should co-align it with what is being taught in the university? I'm sure when Prof started learning, or rather started learning here at UFS, that same thing that you said was still being said, or we must teach things that align with our lived experiences. So my question then is, when will that come to pass? Because it's like, it's a sermon, or rather a preaching that we say each and every time there is a dialogue, we are going to preach that, but it's not something that is real lived. It's not something that is being practiced in terms of where we are. So for the sake of the Deputy Director, since he said 1 minute, I had a lot to say, but I'll leave it here. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you, President. Thank you. You will definitely get another chance to labor on some of the points, but the idea of interacting with the question that Prophet posed, which is a very deep question, is because who we are is very critical in well-being. You cannot speak of well-being if it rips you off of who you are. So that is why that question is important. And as students, it is important that you interface with such questions. But also when you get platforms, you also get to engage with such questions. Doc, just your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Diti. I'll start with the first student on our right, this side. She raised a very important point on things that the university is unable to provide for students. Well, she's a first year, of course, a very optimistic first year, I would assume. But there's something very important that she said, which relates to what I call agency, taking action to get to those elements that you feel that the university is not covering. And I want to expand this to all of us in the room, that if you see that you are in a situation that requires a different frame of thinking. It's important that you also take action so that you fill those gaps that the university cannot provide. Because in all honesty, the university cannot provide you with everything, but it can give you a lens or skills through which to navigate the world, right? So thank you very much for doing that, and I'm hoping that this entire room can move towards that direction. In answering the question on epistemology, I want to touch on the views, it's views, that our university or universities in Africa are universities in Africa and not African universities. One thing I want to say outward and loudly is that change takes time, and change takes revolution. What do I mean by revolution? I don't mean burning of buildings. I mean responding in ways that create the foundations for change in these various views that we hold towards the university. What do I mean by that? I appreciated when I was going to graduate for my PhD just a week ago, when I saw students singing African songs, when I heard drums, when I heard trumpets. I was very, very excited because it felt like home, right? Which addresses the point that I was making on homemaking within the university and how that influences the well-being of students as they navigate the university. So there are things that are happening, but we've got a bigger mile to cover than which we have covered. Now, a person was speaking of seminal works. Prof also spoke about this. Now, what is making those works seminal? What is making those works seminal is because they are the foundations on which we ought to build on, right? But how do we change and create new foundations? We create opportunities for publishing. We as academics put more effort into writing about Africa in Africa so that our works in 10 years' time can become those seminal works that are used to humanize the university space for Africans. So I think, in as much as a lot has been done, we've got a lot to do in terms of activism, number one, in terms of scholarship, number two, and number three, in terms of the universities themselves, branding themselves as universities that respond to African issues, that accommodate African students, so that they can eventually become African universities and not universities located in Africa. Now, the last one, I'll just be a minute, leadership. On epistemology, it's a very, very big term, you know, whose knowledge matters, why does it matter, and so on. Now, student affairs, among other units, especially those that deal directly with students, have got a responsibility to perhaps look at African philosophy and not treat it as a footnote of what should happen in universities. Prof, I'm struggling to publish this paper. It was rejected elsewhere because it sounded like folk tales to them, where I'm speaking about Ubuntu and Ujamaa as philosophies to humanize first-year students' experiences at universities. So those are some of the different philosophies that I speak of. When I speak of Ubuntu, everyone has got their own definition of what it is. But at the end of the day, Ubuntu is about creating a space where people can exist in coexistence with each other in a space that allows them to depend on each other in the university space. So I am because you are, therefore the university is because students are. So the orientation then that universities ought to have is one that says, before we can go and teach you what sociology is, student affairs and other units can create a condition where your existence, Ubuntu bakho buwena, can be acknowledged and can be accommodated in all different aspects of the university. Last one, I speak on Ujamaa there, which is a very important philosophy by former president of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, where he speaks of public good and connection to others. In other words, personal development in connection to social and economic, cultural and even political development. So if the university, if an African university is able to develop students that create value in communities, in society, then we'll be moving towards the right direction. So in conclusion, epistemologies, or the way in which universities go about knowledge, the way they go about student development, ought to be embracing of African philosophies. And we need to work harder to bring those African philosophies to the fore so that universities can become African universities and not universities geographically located in South Africa. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Doc. And I think even for the student engagement, I think very important points were brought up, and it's a conversation that doesn't stop here, it continues. And as Edie alluded, all of these conversations are leading up to the Global Student Wellbeing Summit that is taking place in July. I would just like to pose a question, I think firstly towards the panelists and then to the students. Now, given that higher education is inherently competitive and a performance-driven space, is this culture compatible with a holistic student wellness, or is there a fundamental contradiction?
I think largely there is a discord somewhere. And I think this something jumps up in terms of the history of higher education in the country. Because as soon as you bring in issues of excellence, about competition, ranking, and all those things, but the fundamental things have not been addressed, that creates a very serious challenge going forward. And I think the question is not just about University of the Free State, we're talking about higher education, history and culture in this country. So I would say there is a discord, and we need to find some synergies and understanding of what we mean by, and it comes down to this question of saying, how do we take the business of higher education in this country? How will it become? And while we are still there, remember there is also private institutions, private universities that are coming in, because that also brings up a different flavor into this conversation, because there are those who are saying public universities are not actually responding correctly to the current situation, and those who have got money now, they actually rush into private universities. So we cannot run away from that conversation. And I'm saying this because, in January I attended the PSET conversation, which was in Cape Town, and we had colleagues who were there coming from the private universities and so on. That is what you have in your pocket. It's not about really grappling with the issues of what is higher education. For me, I think we need to stop for a while and have a conversation, a serious conversation about where do we take, and I think currently the Minister of Education of Higher Education is actually contemplating on grappling with that. I think we can go into some of the articles that have been written. One of it is around employability. It's about how do we take higher education space in the next 10 years. And for me, what is important is it's about, one, the curriculum must actually give dignity to students. What I teach you must give you dignity. That's number one. Number two, you must not feel alienated. You might be in a university and feeling that you are present, whereas you are alienated. You are not part of the university because of the policy, the practice, and all these things. So there's got to be some integration. And I'm not talking about University of the Free State. I'm just talking about the whole higher education space going forward. So for me, in answering this question and your question and about becoming an African university, is taking into consideration the ontological lensing of all students. Your being becomes important. Before we even move to epistemology cannot come before ontology. So ontology is important. So you come into space where I understand who you are. And therefore, what it means is that your story matters in a classroom. So I need to know who you are before I can actually teach you the curriculum. So there's got to be a kind of a negotiation between what I teach and research and engage with the student. So that is, for me, the best way of actually dealing with the future of the university. And I'm not leaving out the issues about artificial intelligence. We have not spoken about it, because it has also its upside and up down. Of course, we can't do without it, by the way. You hear what I'm saying. I am not saying all these other things are not important. They are critical. But I think let's get the fundamental issues right first. For me, what should actually happen is that the student should be at the center of everything that we do. And any university that is going to succeed in the future has got to engage with this phenomenon of a student.
Yo, a round of applause for Prof. Hope, I know you've arranged a life strategy workshop for us, but I've just this one question in closing this segment of the conversation. A lot has been said, and I just want to pose this question to the audience. If we were to meet here again in 5 years, what is it that must have fundamentally changed for you to feel that we have truly reimagined student well-being? If we were to meet here again in the next 5 years, what is it that must have fundamentally changed for you to say we have truly reimagined student well-being? There is a hand. I know I always have a hand.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to answer this question in, okay, I'm a science student. I would love to see the practicability of what we learn. I'm an environmentalist. I can't be able to, the only environment that I see is a table, projector, desk, pen and paper. I want to see myself out there practicing what I'm being taught. I can also make an example with EMS. Financial education is not being implemented enough to students that are learning about finance at the end of the day. So those are the type of things that...
Definitely. A round of applause for him. Because we've got to take an approach and treat ourselves and the universities as an ecosystem. So that is a very fundamental point that you've raised there. Hope, I don't want you to kill me. I'm going to hand back over to you to just give us an idea of how we're going to move with the rest of the program. Thank you.
Pardon? Yeah.
Oh. Yes. Okay, please make your point and try to keep it short in the interest of time.
I'll keep it very short.
Thank you.
Personally, I feel like it's looking at student concerned. Sir at the back raised, two sirs actually, they raised a very important point, which is finances. That, I feel like, is a very, very critical issue to student well-being, because as much as the university may provide everything perfectly as it is, if I am worried about when my NSFAS is coming, if I'm worried if I'm even going to receive NSFAS, I'm not going to study well, I'm not going to counseling, I'm not going to function properly because I'm worried about my financial status. And financially, when you are not okay, I don't think it's very much possible for you to be mentally okay. So for me, I'd say it's looking at student concerns, and one of them is finance. The fundamental one for me, I feel like it's finances. Thank you.
I'm happy that you activated your agency to make that point, even though the facilitator wanted to cut you off. That was a very, very critical point to me. Hope,
yes.
Back to you.
Sorry, I'd just like to make a point to wrap it up in terms of the reimagining of it, especially now that the academic staff is being involved in such a dialogue. I think what I would urge the academic staff to do is really I think as much as we say we put students at the center, let's see that practically. It shouldn't be that a faculty has 4 tests that are written back to back in 1 week. I think, because generally so, in the faculty, I do believe like there's a planning that can be done to say that this is when we're setting this and setting that, keeping in mind that different students have different challenges also. And in as much as a lot of the times we're looking at the physical impacts and the consequences of stress, when students are now actively breaking down, when students are getting sick, what does all of this stress do internally in the long run? Can we please see that? We see what Student Affairs is doing for the students. They have programs, events, activations, but when it gets to academia, it feels like your student well-being is left at the door and you now need to just focus. Okay, but thank you for that. So before we move on to the next segment, I'd just like to thank all of our panelists. DJ, please hit the music. Please wake us up. People are sleeping. People are sleeping. A round of applause for the panels. Hello, hello, hello. Is everyone awake? How, guys? Can I get a hi if you're awake? Okay. There are still people here. So, thank you, guys. As you guys saw, this was a beautiful panelist. I must say, guys, this is a discussion that is going so far. Thank you to everyone who engaged. Thank you for your input. Now we are moving on to the second session. Don't worry, it's a quick session. You're not staying forever. But while this is happening, and before I've called the next performance on stage, there is a QR code that is going around, a very small QR code. To those that have already filled it in, thank you so much for your input. Guys, this goes far, okay? This is not a conversation that stays here. For those that haven't filled it in, please do just scan the QR code and fill it in, even those online, because you guys are still here. And now with that, I would like to call on stage our next performers. Can I please have Thabo Pitso and Letutula Zulu to come to the front and perform? Yes, guys, yes!
Jesus.
You sent your word to heal us. Okay. You sent your love and peace. How can I repay you? Oh Lord, how kind you are. You sent your word to heal us. You sent your love and peace. How can I repay you? Oh Lord, how kind you are. Your mercy flows from above, seeking to save my soul. When I was yet in sin, for you came and died for me. My burdens were so heavy, yeah, I could not find no rest. But Jesus, you came and you set me free. I give you all the praise. You sent your word to heal us. You sent your love and peace. How can I repay you? Oh Lord, how kind you are. You sent your word to heal us. You sent your love and peace.
Another round of applause. I mean, wow, guys, wow. That was so inspiring. That was so full of hope, and my name is Hope. So trust me when I say that. So remember, the context of this conversation is still student well-being. We've talked a lot of theory. We've had a lot of the conversations. Now we're going to partake in just a little activity, but allow me to introduce our lovely, lovely lady who will be leading the second part of the session, Ms. Mbali Tisioke. She is an entrepreneur and a mental health advocate, and she's a founder of Sbahle Wellness Initiative with years of experience leading youth-focused wellness programs, facilitating impactful conversations, and partnering with organizations and schools to advance practical community-based approaches in mental health in South Africa. Now, please, ladies, give a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Ms. Mbali.
Hi. This is a lot of humans. You? Okay. I hope you guys are good. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, Mbali Soeke, and I'm founded Special Wellness Initiative with my accessory of a person here. Wow, guys. All right. So, Special Wellness Initiative, just to quickly give you a brief on what we are about. We are a mental health awareness initiative. So we do whatever it is that we can do to just spread awareness about mental health, mental awareness, and whatever, and including exactly the activity that we're going to be doing today. All right? We are coming from lived experiences. My husband and I are both diagnosed. Hey guys, lung plushies. But we are both diagnosed on a serious note. We are both diagnosed with clinical depression. It's a difficult thing to survive on clinical depression, only one. And it does help that we have support. When we started pushing Special Wellness Initiative the way that we are pushing it now, it's to make sure we remind somebody else that you are not alone. We know that we are privileged to be in a place where we truly see and we believe that I'm not alone. He knows he's not alone. But we know that not everybody has the chance to feel that way, right? All right, so the activity that we're going to be doing today is called a life strategy workshop. Are we familiar with vision boards? Yes. We are familiar with vision boards. Do we all have them? Yes. No, okay. Are they making sense? Are things coming from your vision boards? Okay, yes. All right, so now we're going to be doing a life strategy workshop, which is not just a vision board, because vision boards can just be pictures that you put on your wall, right? Or on a poster type of thing. It's not supposed to just be that. It needs to be strategic enough for it to actually come to life, whatever it is that you want that's on your vision board, right? We're trying to make sure that you're not just dreaming about what it is that you want to achieve, you are also taking into account that there are so many steps leading you to that place, right? If the vision is a marathon, that I need to run that at some point, but my plan does not include changing my diet, does not include exercising every day towards that, then what am I doing even putting that on my vision board, right? And that's why we're now putting it straight into a life strategy more than anything, right? Okay, so on the worksheets that you guys have, I think you can see there where it's written life strategy workshop. I'm just going to tell you what the homework is going to look like for you. With written life strategy workshop, right under that is some lines nyana there. That middle part is supposed to have your name on it, because this is your specific strategy, right? It's a very, very personal thing. So it must have your name on it there in the middle. Okay, and then we're going to start speaking about the first section, which is personal. 3 things. All the time when it comes to all of these groups, it's going to be 3 things that you are focusing on. The more you focus on too many things, the more complicated you make it for yourself to realize that you really are achieving your dreams. As soon as you start thinking that there's so many things that I need to achieve, then you end up thinking that I actually am not achieving those things, whereas there really is progress. And if you started with showing yourself the small bit of progress, you are going to see that you really are moving towards your bigger picture, right? Okay, so when we speak about personal, I would like to know the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear me designing my life strategy. Personal. I need somebody to raise a hand before I just select a person. First thing that comes to your mind, it literally can be my shoes, it can be the house, I don't know, whatever. This is personal, and it's your thing, right? There's nothing that can be wrong. Somebody? Hope. Hope? Personal. Askis, you're the only one whose name I know, so personal.
What comes to my mind when you say personal is my mental health. How am I going to be taking care of my mental health?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anyone else? I would like 2 more, please. Your mental health. What else when it comes to creating your life strategy? Nobody, somebody, oh, okay, yes, please.
My finances, because I cannot do anything without money.
Awesome, yes, yes. It's good to think about that, yes. Anything else? Personal? One last one. One last person on your personal life strategy. What are you thinking? Your daughter. Okay, yes, great. So we have all these 3 things. Now, what I want you to think about when it comes to this part, and there's a reason why we're starting with personal. I get it, there is relationships, there's career, there's spiritual, but there's a reason why we're starting with personal. I need your mindset when it comes to this personal part to be as selfish as possible. As off as that sounds, we don't just want to be selfish people or whatever. This is your life strategy. The first thought must be selfish, right? So in that selfish thought, what is it for you that you're looking into for your life strategy? Mental health is definitely a personal thing. Your daughter is an external, right? Anything else, money is also external. It's good to think about those, but these are external factors that only work out after you've sorted yourself out, right? So you would think, say, on something that I would put would be, I breathe before I respond. As a recovering people pleaser, somebody asks you for something and you don't care whether it's going to disrupt your life or not, you're just saying yes. But it's important for you to remember that no, in working on myself, I now breathe before I respond, right? So that's something that's adding on to you. Anything else, but it needs to be as selfish as possible. And when you go back and write on that, yes.
You mustn't be too kind. You must be kind, but to a certain extent, because people can literally go over your kindness.
Absolutely, but we teach people how to treat us, right? So if you're teaching me from my request to you on whatever it is, whether it's really going to interrupt you or not, and you're giving me anytime you need me is not a problem, then you're teaching me that you don't have any boundaries. In fact, when I come to your room, I must just open the door and not knock. Yeah. But it's okay to have healthy boundaries, and people that care about you will respect that. Right. Okay, so that is that on your personal. We're thinking very selfishly over here. Please, it's difficult to think selfish. It's easier for you to be thinking, I need to care about family, I need to care about friends, I need to care about my community, all of that, selfish, right? Okay, the next one is spiritual. 3 things that you think about when you're speaking about your own life strategy when it comes to spirituality. Yes, please. Discipline and obedience. Okay, beautiful. Yes, please. God, okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that wants to say something? Okay, we have discipline, obedience, God. Nah? Again, this part is also very personal. When I teach students in business management stuff, I always say there are things that you cannot discuss with a first-time client, and one of them is things that have to do with spirituality, because those things are very, very personal, right? And spirituality, in terms of it being personal to you, is that it's whatever it is that works for you, right? Because somebody else, ancestors, that works, that falls part of their spirituality, that's not a problem, that works for them. Somebody else, it's God. Somebody else, it's astrology, universe, manifest, whatever it is. You need to figure out which one works for you, because that's the thing that's going to center you, right? At the end of the day, even though you've done your personal side of things, you're coming back into the world, you need to interact with us, and you're going to be taking in people's energies and all of that. You need to go back to your safe space and find a way to center yourself, and that's where your spirituality comes in. It's not a conversation for you to have with anyone. Think about it personally, and being in varsity is also something else. There may be a belief that you are raised under that doesn't really make sense to you at this moment. It's okay for you to start thinking, this is on my life strategy, what does spirituality mean for me? What centers me? Okay, because then you're unable to move over to any other part of your life. All right, so the next part is relationships. Yes, 3 things on relationships.
Decentering parents, thinking about breaking generational curses always breaks you, and also your relationship with money and other things in life.
Beautiful. Woo. Yes. Is there anyone else that wants to add something on relationships? Want to add anything else? We're covered. Oh, okay. There's someone else at the back there.
Three things. It's God first. It's parents, and then it's EFF.
Awesome. Okay, great. No, remember we're being selfish, right? This is his personal one. It's not a conversation again. Okay, and I really love the ones, the thoughts that have come up. Because a lot of people, when you say relationships, the first thought is a romantic relationship. And that's fine, but it's not supposed to be the first thing. It is your relationship with yourself, and then it's how you want to relate with other people. You need to think about 3 things that is going to be about what you want to do when it comes to relating with other people? Do you only really want to engage with people that are coming up with thought-provoking conversations? Do you only want to interact with people that are students? Do you really want to interact with people that are parents? Whatever it is, maybe mentors. Oh, sorry, yes.
For me, my 3 goals on the relationship part is knowing that family isn't always about blood. That's one. 2, learning how to say no to certain people and not feeling guilty about it, and also not rushing myself because of what everyone else says. Just because I'm in my 20s now, I have to either get married, or I need to find a boyfriend, or I need to complete university. Just going by my pace and not caring about what anyone else says.
Love it, love it. And that goes a bit more into the personal side. No? With relationships, we really are bringing other people in. I get it, but it's still coming from a selfish angle. But we are bringing other people in. It's just that you being selfish in terms of who do I really want to spend time relating with, right? How do I want my relationship with my parents to be? How do I want my relationship with my peers to be? But it needs to be 3 things that you just think about. What type of person do you want to be in any sort of relationship? Do I want to be more thoughtful? Do I want to put in a bit more effort into maintaining my friendships? Do I want to cut down on that effort? Whatever it is, but think about how you relate with people. It's not always the next person's problem. Sometimes you are the problem, right? So just think about that. So those are the 3 things that then goes on to relationships. Then we have the last one, which is career. 3 things when it comes to your career. What are you thinking? Yes.
What I think when I think about careers is that, okay. Hi everyone. What I think when I think about careers is that as much as you want the career, things might not go according to plan. So I feel like you should always have not a room for disappointment, but a backup plan as to when your career plans don't go according to plan. Yeah.
And that tends to be a tricky one. Eh? Thinking about a backup plan tends to be an exhausting situation, because then how do you focus on what you are currently doing when you have to keep thinking about the next thing that you might have to do if this one doesn't work out? And if you don't put in proper energy, oh sorry, yes. Is there something you wanted to say? Yes, please.
I wanted to wait for you to finish, but it's fine. For me, it's strategy, success, and money.
And money, yes, please. Let the career come with money.
Mine is first of all a PhD.
Ooh.
PhD.
Yes.
Yes, director, please. Please. A PhD. My NPC, the last one is business.
NPC, is that what you said?
Yes, non-profit company.
Oh,
yes.
You and I should talk.
We should.
Special wellness is an NPC.
Sure.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. But yes, careers, it's again, we're going back to 3 things that you are looking into when it comes to the career that you are building for yourself, right? And I want us to think about the order of the stuff that we've just spoken about right now, because there's a reason. We're not just speaking about personal and then spiritual and then relationships and then career. There's a reason why that is in that order. Can someone give me an idea of what they think, why is it supposed to be in that order? Why you need to start with personal, then come with spiritual, then come with relationships, and then lastly your career. Does anyone have an idea? Why would that be important? Okay, then does it not make sense that this is in this order? It does make sense. Okay, what? Yes, please. Please, please.
Well, my understanding of it is that before you can think about how you want to spend the most hours you normally have awake at a workplace, you need to think and go through the first three, because they will determine your campus, firstly, in terms of where would you like to see yourself, and secondly, it will give you clarity in terms of what it is that you must engage in that is gonna captivate you and keep you intrinsically motivated to do the work. Otherwise, you will find yourself in a space that you do not like, and you'll be the most miserable person, probably suffering from depression as well.
There's a chance Umai is my mentor, even though I just met her today. But exactly that. A lot of people put career first. And in all honesty, if you did not figure yourself out on personal, you did not figure out how to ground yourself on spiritual, you didn't figure out how to relate with other human beings in relationships, what are you going to offer your career? You're going to mess up your career. And you're in school now working towards the career that you are building, and you're going to ruin that, all that effort that you've put into that, if you're not going to take into account all these other things. As much as they seem as if right now, because I'm working towards a career, I'd rather just focus on that so that the money can come in and all of that. If the money comes and spiritually you don't know how to ground yourself, you've lost it. If the money comes and you don't know how to relate with people, that business partner is going to leave you. Your boss is going to have a problem with you being over there and let you go. You don't know how to relate with people. So all of these things are important before you get to your career part. Does that make sense? All right, so that's the activity from Special Wellness today. Thank you so much for interacting, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much, Spase, for that. I think we now have the practical tools to go forth and be great. If you don't have a vision board like my counterpart, please make a vision board. Make an action board. I did one in my first year, and I can say that I'm ticking it off. I literally marked down, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, this is where I want my mind to be at, this is where I want to be in terms of school also. And it's really helpful, So with that, we have come to the end of our program. But before I let you go, we still have to do the small 5-minute things, small. And then we'll get to the favorite part. Yes, you see. Patience. So I would just like to firstly call upon our lovely mother of the campus, our Assistant Director of Student Affairs, Mezoleka Totwana, to just do the vote of thanks. Round of applause, please.
I have a mic. Oh, it's on. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What an awesome day. And the time just went just like that. And we were having a really good time. I would first of all like to thank the ED for the vision. If it were not for his visionary leadership, we would not be having such critical conversations. We appreciate that, ED, very much. The opportunity an awesome one for students. I hope they feel the way I do. I'm super excited as it were. The fact that we were reminded to take collective responsibility for our well-being is what we should leave the hall with today. Because I know it's always easy to try and say, I did not do this because so and so didn't do why. But the fact that tonight we were being reminded to take collective responsibility for wellness is gonna help us grow. And that's what DSA stands for. We are here to add value to our students' development trajectory. And secondly, looking at what our two highly esteemed academics brought to the table, I am actually in awe. And what I would like us to take away tonight as we leave this place is the fact that no matter what the circumstances are, you all need to go through your scars. It's critical, ladies and gentlemen. Although the university might have its own responsibilities, it is important that we also take courage in the fact that we didn't come here empty-handed or empty-headed. We came here with experiences, and those experiences matter. As we grow, we must also remember there is a bigger battle. As they say, our democracy might be 30 years and people think we have been set free for a while. This is now the real test of what democracy is all about. We need to stand up and be activists and do what we would like to see instead of expecting someone else to do things for us. We have to make sure that our universities are not just universities in Africa, they become African universities. Therefore, you matter, you are gifted, and you also have an opportunity to explore yourself. I know that there are certain key things that we prioritize sometimes. The issue of finances. I'm trying to figure out if you grew up during our time, I wonder how would you have responded to such? Because we left our homes, some of us, when we went to university, we knew that we are leaving behind a family that has got to struggle because they've got to pay for my fees. When I register in January, they don't know where the next meal is gonna come from. And I live with that every day. And sometimes when I look back, I started my life as a lecturer in psychology. And you know why I stopped lecturing? It was because I used to get frustrated whenever I had to mark tests. You stand in front of students, you give your heart and soul, and then students don't take that seriously. And when you've got to mark what you come across, it reminds you of where you come from, because I'm carrying my scars. Remember, I know that when I got to university, I knew that my parents and my siblings were going to struggle for the greater part of the year. And then you have to give marks to students, and you know where they come from, and they don't do their due diligence. Those were the scars I carried that made me say, I can't do this anymore. Then I opted to go into student counseling because I thought, I cannot do this because students are not taking their own lives seriously. They are not applying themselves in the manner in which they are supposed to. So tonight, I would like you to really think about those issues. When we say you are carrying scars, those are some of the scars. But what you were being asked tonight is to transcend beyond those scars. But what are we expected to do? We have to be activists, we have to be scholars, and we have to brand ourselves as well to make sure that we get to where we want. It's not going to happen if we are not applying ourselves into doing such. So, as much as DSA is creating space that acknowledges who you are, we try our level best. In this campus, Prof, we have also appointed a traditional healer because we acknowledge the fact that our students come from a diverse background. And in trying to ensure that they get the necessary wellness support, they must. And we did not say only a few students subscribe to that kind of spirituality. The fact that there are students who are in that space, they also need to be taken care of. So, a good package has been given to us students as we prepare our way to the Global Student Summit that we will be hosting in July. Between now and then, please find time to think about what it is that you will be contributing in that global space. When you get there, also be open-minded to learn from others because they will be sharing their own lived experiences in terms of what they think wellness means for them. I cannot say much about the very last speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very practical in terms of how we can take care of our own well-being. It is indeed true that if you don't have a personal strategy in life, it's like you are a Boeing that is flying without a compass. You must have a direction that you've identified for yourself because it shapes your trajectory of life. Spirituality is at the core of who we are. And when Africa was colonized, that's the first thing they started with, for a reason. Because it actually anchors who we are as individuals. Nourish your spirituality. Find time for your spiritual life because it actually anchors you. Whatever it is that you believe in, you must be grounded. Do you know how bad it is for you to sit with a level of guilt? I know all of you, when you leave home, your parents will always say, remember who you are, remember where you come from. You must not go out there and embarrass us. And embarrassing your parents happens when you are faced with decisions to make. Others will say, we need to go out on a Friday night, clubbing. You know you have a test on Monday. Do you have the courage to say, no, I can't? Yeah. And then relationships and career are what we are all aspiring to have in life. We all want a good life, right? You can never have a good life if you don't keep mentally well, mentally healthy. And those 4 things that you were told about tonight are actually what is going to make your life an easy journey. I'm saying easy because when you are grounded, you have strength to fight anything that disrupts your thinking about what you want. So if those 4 things are really up there, nothing is insurmountable. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Director. And with those few words, I wish to draw this event to a close. And let me thank the tech team at the back, sound engineers, photography, videographers, and all of those who've made this possible and who've made sure that we are not just here, but we are global because we had a live audience as well. Let me thank you as participants. You're very active participants. Give yourselves a healthy round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the part I'm going to deal with, that's why I've had to put my glasses on. It's a very critical one. I'm going to give an order of how you are going to receive, what nourishes your body. Because that is part of wellness. Yes. Before I do so, let me announce this. Nobody's cooking tonight. You are not cooking tonight. Okay. Let's make it quick. And please don't shoot the messenger. I've been informed by our ushers that there is enough refreshments for everybody. And they've requested that we will start from the first row and they will usher you row by row to collect your meals. While you do so, while you mind your business, I'm going to ask the ED to just gift our guest speakers just their gifts, and we pause for a photo, and then we will all then leave for our own refreshment. Thank you so much.